Well, howdy there, partners. Today I'm going to be telling you the tale of Sally Saloony, a true American legend. Sally Saloony was a cowgirl of the Wild West, and she spent her days rootin' and tootin' and gun-slinging shootin'. And today I'm going to be telling you about a few of her greatest feats as an outlaw in the American West. Now, Sally Saloony, she had many enemies in the West. Many rival gangs. They had tried to recruit her because they had seen her superior skill. However, Sally Saloony was, she was a lone wolf. And she said, no, thank you, I'm just gonna go right on my way, don't mind me. I'm gonna keep beating ass all alone. I don't need nobody but myself. She was a little bit cocky in her personal self. But even when they tried to intimidate her through edge walking, she didn't give in. She did not want a gang. She wanted to be a lone rider on the hills, killing people who cross her path. So that's exactly what she gosh darn did. Now, Sally Saloony was not just mindlessly violent. She really only became she started, alright, so let me give you a little backstory. She started out, just robbing folks for her own survival. But when these rival gangs saw her skill, and they invited her to join them, and she said no, well, that's when these gangmen started attacking her. As men do when you tell them no. So, Sally Saloony, she's got little gangs and big gangs on her ass, chasing her throughout the wild, wild west. She's got gangs of 2, gangs of 3, gangs of 4. And, Sally, she had to adapt to learn to, be one of the best gunslingers of all time so that she could shoot 4 people at once with 1 bullet. Or legend has it anyway. Now, these lily-livered sons of bitches, you know what they said to Sally? They said, Sally, we know you like to do your own thing and wear the color red. Red is the Rhode Island dirt of Lemoyne. But we would really prefer you in virginese white or pissinese yellow. And Sally said, no, thank you, I'm going to make my own fashion choices, sir. And then she shot him. But she missed. But then someone else shot him. But in the legend, we just say that Sally shot him, because she probably did, and right after that. Well, anywho, now that y'all's have the backstory of Sally Saloony, I'm gonna be telling you all about a few of the most legendary legends, featuring none other than Miss Gunslinging Master Sally Saloony. So here, I'm gonna show you the tale. We're gonna tell the tale. I'm gonna show it and tell it. The tale of Sally versus the Rusty Tractor Man and the Gold Rush California Man. Now, Rusty Tractor Man needed some gold, and Gold California Man needed some protection. So they teamed up together. They wasn't even a bona fide gang, but then they fancied themselves they was, and so they tried to ambush Sally Saloony, but she was a master, so she was actually able to intimidate them into panic, and she was able to separate them. And when Gold Rush Man pulled out his gun, she shot it right out of his hand, and then she shot him right in the face, and then he died immediately, because Sally Saloony she can shoot 4 lily-livered sons of yellow belly sons of goddamn bitches, And so, you know, he was really no match for her. And she went off down the road. She doesn't have a horse, you know, she's vegan, of course, and so, you know, she ain't riding horses out here. She just ran around the Wild West. She was still a cowboy, but, you know, anywho's. So she caught up with Rusty Tractor Man, and she just chopped his head right off with her gun, right off. Chopped that son's head right off with her gun. Anyway, here's another legend. Now this might even be my favorite legend of Sally Saloony. Now this is the time that Sally Saloony chopped off 3 dudes' heads with one bullet at the same time, while she also got her head chopped off. It's a real riveting tale, and it ain't bullshit, and it ain't bull hockey, and it ain't you know, it ain't false. It's a legend, but it's a true legend. Oh my goodness. So Sally Saloony, she was camping out one night, and then these 3 men, these gang boys, showed up, and they showed up and they tried to ambush her in her camp, but she was already awake. She knew they was coming, so she jumped up and she just started shooting them. But they started shooting her too, because, you know, they had her surrounded, so they shot her and she died, but everyone else died too. And she actually resurrected herself because, you know, she was really good at being a doctor on the road to herself, because she ain't had nobody but herself. Now, I'm going to tell you the time that Sally Saloony got ambushed in the middle of town out front of the saloon. So Sally went into town, you know, get some supplies for the road. And she had to go into town more often than your average, you know, cowboy, because, you know, she ain't had no cow to ride. So she goes into town, but the lawmen, they seen her there, and they decided that they was gonna start some shit, and they started an ambush. So this other fella at the saloon, he said, that just ain't right. If Sally wants to wear the color red and shoot people's heads off, then she goddamn right as well might be able to. So I'm gonna help her out. Fuck you guys. So these lawmen, these officers of what they call the law, whatever that means, I'm not really too sure, but they you know, they was cowards. They was even worse than the gang boys that she was used to whooping. So these lawmen, they relied on illegal war crime tactics, and I'm gonna tell you about some of them. So one of the things that they would do to her is they would glitch around. They would be really laggy, and they would just kind of teleport around so that she couldn't see where they was going. She couldn't aim her decapitation gun at their heads, you know. And another thing that they would do is they had these rare seeds from Guatemala. They had, you know, imported from some other colonizers down there, and they took these seeds and they used them to terrorize her, and they turned her environment against her. They used these seeds that caused mind control of the citizens of this town, and then the citizens of the town started attacking her, even though she ain't had nothing to do with them. She had always been polite when she come into this town. They were her friends. You know, Sally her enemies did not include the innocent townsfolk, but these coppers, they turned the townsfolk against her. Time and time again, they were just using these seeds. They were sprinkling the seeds outside of people's houses, sprinkling them in the driver's seat of their wagons. And so Sally Saloony and her new friend, the saloon man, they you know, things looked bleak for them, but they said, it's alright, we're gonna pull through. Y'all can't just be throwing cocaine dust and seeds at us. And so, but it's okay. Sally had been around cocaine before, and she knows how to handle cocaine, and she knows how to handle these rare seeds. So she got brave, and she just walked right up to the sheriff, and she just shot his goddamn head off. And you best believe it. That's 'cause that's what legend says. And then she pissed on his grave, and she shat on his decapitated corpse. That's what Sally did. Like I said, she ain't just violent. She was a real sweetheart. But don't you go messing with her, because Sally will shoot the head clean off of any backwards ass motherfuckers that get in her ways of hiking the trails of the west end of the plains. She really loves to just walk around in the west, so you can't take that away from her. So Sally, one day she comes across this lone police officer on the trail. He's riding his horse, and he notices that Sally ain't riding a horse, so he's like, this dumb slut must be vegan. And so he tries to be sneaky, and he tries to plant a bomb in a tunnel over a river. But Sally sees the bomb, of course, and she just rolls away from it, and then she claps at him. She says, "You're real stupid." And he said, "Well, that's mighty offensive there, miss." So you know how these cop men are. They get offended at things. Meanwhile, they're killing. So he planted a bomb, but when she said that he was a stupid ass bitch, he was like, well, that's just too far right there. So then he planted more bombs, and you know what else he did? He called the U.S. Supreme Military of Azul in, and so these blue soldiers, they came in to town, to the trail, to where Sally was, and they started whooping her, and that gave the cop a little bit more confidence, and then he started whooping her, and Sally said, "Hold on a minute, I gotta polish my gun, I wasn't ready for this." And I mean, even though she was a legend, you can't really blame her. She did not have much experience with the U.S. Supreme Military of Azul. And so she ran off, and she hid behind a rock. She ducked down, and she polished her guns, and then she get back into battle. But so she's out there doing her best, fighting the cops and the troops, and just doing her best. But this other lady was walking down the trail, and she seen Sally struggling, and she said, "Well, I can't call myself a feminist while I ain't, helping out my fellow lady, so I'm gonna go help her kill all these men." So now this nice lady actually became Sally's best friend, partner in crime, and she was a little dainty ass whooper known as Relix 789. And Sally instantly knew that they were just, they was just soulmates. That's why they did a little jig together in the middle of battle. But then they said, we got to get to work. We got to kill these sons of bitches. So little Miss Relix, she says, "Alright, well, let's get to it." And she was not fazed by the cops and their bombs and the military and their throwing knives. And so her and Sally, they just got in there, and they just whooped some ass for a while. For a long while. The battle went on for about 11 days, and then Sally finally destroyed half of the army, and the cops, they retreated for a minute. They ran off, but then they got another wave of soldiers. They got that backup army, the kind that they keep in the storage unit. They had some of those, and so then the cops, they started getting nervous. The battle just wasn't going the way they wanted it to, so they started doing more of them illegal war crime moves. They started doing the lag dance and trying to sneak up behind Sally when they was dancing, but Sally, she had been fighting these dumb sons of bitches for about 11 days, so She knew what they was up to. She'd seen it all before. Remember I told you about that town? Well, that's where she learned about it, so she was able to apply that here. So eventually, Sally does away with the rest of the U.S. Supreme Military of Azul, and she says, red is better than blue, get lost. And they all died and they all cried. But then the cops, they panicked and they started to run. But Sally, she had her new friend Relix at her side, and together they just terrorized the cops. You know, exactly like you should be doing. You should be, just fucking kicking any cop's ass at any time that you get. But the cops, they say, we ain't scared, we got this. Even though we're backing up and we're getting real nervous. So Sally Saloony was feeling pretty good about all the victories, and she let out a bit of a risky R2. And the cop, he parried that with his gun. But it's alright, because her new soul sister Relix sacrificed her own body and her own foot. She kicked that cop right out of the way. And it gave Sally Saloony enough time to get back on her feet and start whooping more cop ass. And they killed about 16 more cops in the next 5 minutes. And then they were down to the last cop. It was the sheriff. The sheriff that had been planting bombs on the bridge for Sally. And he was letting more of them illegal gun parries out. Sally decided to take it slow and play it safe so that, the cops wouldn't win. But her soul sister Relix, she just took care of it. And they celebrated their victory on that day there, and that's the legend of Sally Saloony. I hope y'all enjoyed your history lesson of this great American tale and woman tale. Alrighty, it is Ratsnake. I am so sorry if you all hated that, because I kind of hated it, but it was an idea that I had, so I just did it anyway. Although I probably should have played some Red Dead Redemption 2 first to get my cowboy juices flowing, but it's alright. I won't do it again though. If you hate it, tell me. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. The builds will be linked in the description. That's new. And I shout out to Relix. I will also link his channel in the description, and you should go there and you should watch those YouTube videos and give him some thumbs and some comments. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all later.
We will put you down if you don't move right now.